Good morning. Thank you all for being here today. My name is Ben Eldredge. I'm the Executive Director of the Heart of Texas Conservancy. I'm joined here today by Rachel Haynes, the Policy Manager from the Greater Edwards Aquifer Alliance, as well as Kel Hoffman, the Land Conservation Director for the Cibolo Center for Conservation. We really represent more than just our organizations. We are on calls and in meetings all the time with other organizations who very much align with what we're going to share with you today. We are reeling from the tragedy of the Independence Day flood in Kerr County. Many are still missing, the searches are ongoing, and the death toll continues to rise. First responders and neighbors have bravely risked their lives to save others who were caught in this flood. And now many people are searching for those who could not be saved. There is no way to account for the anguish that we feel for the lives that have been lost, but we know that this must never happen again. Our conservation and natural resource organizations, as well as many others throughout the state, are not content to sit by and allow a tragedy of this proportion to ever happen again. The Texas Hill Country is known as Flash Flood Alley, a name that captures the frequent occurrence of flash flood events in this region. The location, elevation, geology, and steep slopes of the region contribute to intense rain events that concentrate flash floods like the ones we have just witnessed. Some have said that nobody could have seen this coming. However, the probability of a flood event of this magnitude in Flash Flood Alley has been known for years. The probability is reflected on flood maps that illustrate the likelihood of a 100-year flood or a 500-year flood event, as well as numerous historical events demonstrating the death and destruction caused by these floods. The Guadalupe River alone has seen 6 deadly flood events since 1921, not including the recent Independence Day flood. In 1921, a flood drowned 12 people, and an additional 25 were unaccounted for new brownfalls, including an entire families that were reportedly washed away. In 1932, the Guadalupe River flooded in Hunt and Kerrville, killing 7 people. In 1972, there were 18 people who died due to flooding in the Guadalupe River basin. The 1987 flash flooding resulted in 10 deaths when a bus carrying children was swept away near Comfort, Texas, where we are here today. Another flood in 1998 spanned 7 river basins and caused 31 deaths. A 2002 event spilled over the Canyon Lake Dam and was responsible for 12 fatalities. We are still waiting and mourning as the count from the Independence Day flood continues to grow. If we don't learn the lessons of this terrible tragedy, we will doom ourselves to repeat this history and lose more loved ones. There are many strategies available to mitigate the severity of floods, and we're certainly agreeing with calls for early warning systems. However, the surest way of protecting human lives is to keep residential and commercial lodging out of the 100-year floodplain. To be clear, early warning systems can play a vital role. However, they are far less effective than keeping people out of harm's way in the first place. As Dick Eastland, the recently deceased owner of Camp Mystic, explained in a 1990 interview with the Austin American-Statesman, quote, "I'm sure there will be other drownings. People don't heed warnings." We must therefore use every strategy available to protect people from rebuilding or locating residences and lodging within the 100-year floodplains throughout the Texas Hill Country. Keeping lodging out of the floodplain and out of harm's way is the surest way to reduce the death and destruction caused by flood events. Safeguarding people in this matter will also protect first responders, who put their own lives at risk to aid others who are caught in flash floods. Keeping people out of the 100-year floodplain will also afford more time for people to react to emergency response systems during more extreme events that could reach up to the 500-year floodplain. Our simple message is this: Going forward, we must build back better, safer, and with a focus on keeping people out of the 100-year floodplain and therefore out of harm's way. We can't stop flooding, but we can reduce the risk from flood events, and we must act before the next flood. And I'm going to invite Rachel Haynes to come up to the podium. She's with the Edwards Aquifer Alliance to say her part.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Rachel Haynes. I'm the Policy Director with the Greater Edwards Aquifer Alliance. We are a nonprofit dedicated to the protection and preservation of the Edwards and Trinity aquifers and to the protection and health and safety and welfare of all of those who rely on our groundwater resources. Our hearts go out to the many victims of the July 4th floods, their families, their communities, and the first responders. Our thoughts are with them as we work to ensure that a tragedy of this scale is not repeated. We have been advocating for responsible flood solutions that both protect Texans and respect nature for many years, and will continue to do so in an effort to ensure that Texans do not have to endure a similar disaster as we saw earlier this month. Texans deserve better. As we head into a special session partially dedicated to responding to and preparing for flood events, and as we look forward to the next legislative session in 2027, we plan on continuing to advocate for reforms to local authority relating to flooding and floodplains, and for many more flood infrastructure funding opportunities. We hope that city, county, and especially state officials will work with us to pass legislation that emphasizes preventing the worst impacts of flooding, not just response and mitigation. We will be pouring our efforts into providing research, outreach, education, and recommendations to ensure that our water supplies, the Hill Country, and Texans are adequately protected from the worst impacts of flooding. We do applaud the legislature for taking up much needed charges to ensure that when a disaster happens, Texans are made aware and are able to respond. We look forward to seeing our state lawmakers step up. It's what Texans do best. We help each other. We believe, however, that we cannot keep simply responding to events and dealing with the impacts as they occur. We need to prevent the worst of the impacts from occurring in the first place and prepare communities for them when they do happen. Floods will continue to happen, and we will likely see floods to this scale again. We can all ensure that the next time it happens, Texans do not suffer a similar tragedy. We hope that lawmakers can join us in advocating for reforms that allow counties greater land use authority for development in the floodplains and in hydrologically sensitive areas to protect their residents. We hope to see greater solutions for open space and floodplain preservation, and we hope to see the recommendations in the Guadalupe River Regional Flood Plan and the State Flood Plan fully implemented and fully funded. We also would like to encourage all Texans to vote for Prop 4 in the November general election to provide funding for Texas water infrastructure, including funds for the Flood Infrastructure Fund that can hopefully ensure that a tragedy to this scale never happens again. Thank you, and I will now turn it over
Kel Hoffman.
to Kel Hoffman. Thank you.
Howdy, y'all. My name is Kel Offman. I'm the Director of Land Conservation at the Cibolo Center for Conservation. I'll keep this brief because my colleagues have said most of the pertinent things that you need to hear. What I want to talk about, though, is how we're going to move forward. Coming in today, driving over the Guad, you see sawyers out there processing trees still, search and rescue teams looking for folks still. Those people are out there showing care for their neighbors, showing love. That same love we can use and harness to prevent something like this from happening again in the future. The time to come together and plan for this is not right after the next flood. It's right now. This will happen again. This is Flash Flood Alley, has been said. This is the 7th occurrence of a fatal flood in the last 100 years. It's not a matter of if, but simply when. And we need to be able to protect the most vulnerable people in our communities. And we can do that by banding together now, remembering how much we care for our neighbors, and preventing some of these things from happening. I'd like to ask everybody to talk to their state legislators before this special session is this month and tell them their concerns. Tell them about how this has affected you and your loved ones and get the point across. This can be prevented. We can care for the land and care for each other. Those two things go hand in hand. You just have to start now. Thank you.